Hi everybody, do you want to see how I created this short 2D frame by frame animation in Blender? I have a process video of the Twitch recording that I did that I compressed and cut down to about 8 times the speed. Sadly, I don't have the first part of that video anymore, so we have to jump right in when I was done with my main 2 keys and had 2 of the breakdowns roughed out as well. So this video isn't so much about rough animation, but more about cleanup and in-betweening a shot. Let's have a look. Yeah, so I started with the rough out of the gun here. I usually don't draw guns, so I had a tricky time sort of figuring out a design. I had a lot of references, but this is me struggling with the gun and flipping the screen to have a better idea for the design and of perspective. Yeah, by the way, on the bottom left corner or middle left sort of, you see the shortcuts I'm pressing. And here I flip back and then edited quickly the length and the size of it. And here I'm jumping into some cleanup of the gun now, and this is where you actually will see me rotating and using the sculpt tool a lot more. Whenever I'm not 100% happy with a line, instead of redrawing it all the time, I started to use the sculpt tool to manipulate whatever I wasn't happy with, and I found that a great time saver actually. Yeah, and also something that I'm really like from my process in TV Paint, to rotate the screen a lot, and I have the same shortcut here now set up as well, and it feels so natural to kind of move the screen in the direction that I feel most comfortable drawing. Some details. And then I moved the first gun that I had on the first key onto the last key that I did. Next I jumped into the cleanup of the rough breakdown that I had done before. Here you see me looking at the rough again, and now looking for the right brush size and brush stroke. And starting the cleanup. I tend to flip a lot when I'm cleaning, and also in rough animation even more, just to get a better idea of the volume and the geometrics and the movement of the animation. Especially with turning heads, I find it very, very important to do. Yeah, again you see me using the sculpt tool a lot, this round big brush that I use. Or sometimes more, like here. Yeah, a lot of fiddling and trying to get it right. I hope this isn't too hectic for you. It is speed up about 8 times, so don't think I'm actually animating in that speed. I really like the sculpt tool here as well, like as a really big brush to get like general proportion and slow movements to be right. You can really subtly manipulate your drawings. And here I'm actually already in the ease out of the first key. And instead of redrawing it all, I just copied it and then manipulated it ever so slightly. So it is redrawing here the eyes obviously, but most of it I could just reuse and manipulate a little bit, and it saves me a ton of work in cleanup. The face is always a bit tricky and needs a bit more attention. And now I could jump into adjusting the gun also on this ease in. Now we're going to the cleanup of the second breakdown. Actually, for the breakdowns I don't like to reuse material from the old ones, because I want like a proper feel of change of the lines. So I like them actually intentionally to be a little bit different and maybe wonky from the first one, or from the keys that are kind of around it. And eyes are always tricky and need adjusting. And then again, just drawing a slightly off round line, and instead of redrawing it 15 times, just take the sculpt tool and push it a little bit so it's right. So nice, especially on these long round lines that usually you need a lot of control on. Just allows me to be a bit quicker really. Then reusing the hand. Bit of sculpt tool here, bit of sculpt tool there. And the gun. And then we already move on to the ease out sort of into the, or the ease in to the last keyframe. And instead of redrawing that again, I just duplicated the keyframe, and now I select the arm and the gun and edit that a little bit so it eases off into the last position. Yeah, the other parts now as well, just slightly sort of edit them so they just about move into the last frame. The edit tool is really great for that too, as you can just rotate and scale things and move them a little bit. And now I'm using the sculpt tool to do the rest of the manipulation. I still noticed some things that were out of place on the hand here. And some lines that were crossing. And then I thought, the hair would be nice to be floating after that as well, so I moved all the hairlines that I had on the other keyframes onto its own layer. That takes a while now to just select it all and move them to the next layer. The idea was to then lock all the other layers, so when using the sculpt or the edit tool on the hair, I wouldn't manipulate the other parts as well. Yeah, and here I'm done, and I can just start manipulating with the sculpt tool, and the rest of the head doesn't transform. Here I create the keyframes of the hair movement that I want, so a breakdown and a key in the end. And also in the beginning, a breakdown pose for the hair. And then I started to interpolate that. And first I had a lot of settings wrong. I was kind of trying to figure that out, because it's been a while that I've used that. But eventually I get there. But it's a great tool. It sort of does some automated in-betweening for you, so you can ask it to ease in or ease out into certain keyframes that you have. And a really nice tool, especially on these very floaty and smooth sort of movements that you don't want a lot of attention on. Yeah, here I filled it with the rest of the in-betweens with this interpolation tool, and yeah, and here I'm flipping back through it, and I think I'm happy with that. So last thing I'm always doing is to actually give it a bit of a noise modifier, because I like the lines to have a certain vibrancy. And then I always duplicate my lines and put another effect on it, which is blur, and put that line layer, that second animation, on multiply, so that also has sort of and adds a certain effect that I really like. The naming is always important too. And I think, I tinted it also a little bit bluish. And here we have it. I hope you liked it and that you could take something away from that. In the future, I would like to do more detailed tutorials, my 2D animation workflow in Blender. But if you are a 2D animator or interested in 2D animation in Blender and you don't know where to start really, then I created a gumroad tutorial that actually covers you from installing through to the interface, drawing tools and the animation, and also includes a key map that gets rid of all the 3D aspects of the program, so it actually is more friendly for 2D animators and those who don't want to use the 3D aspects of it. So feel free to check that out and let me know what you like about Blender and what future videos you would like to see about it. See you around!